Bom dia. Happy Saturday. Me espero que você tenha bom simang, whatever that means to you. Você manda todo produtivo, todo fun, todo se você tem ambiente de carnaval, então tudo carnaval activities, me espero que você possa enjoy those too. E me awako tem hope hende na Aruba que tem some form of like griep of algo. So for all of you, beterschap, whatever it is, kuda going through, me espero e vai pa acaba, so I have no interest in getting it. Pero sí. Bom weekend. Happy Saturday. Awe nos vai papel de tópico hobby interessante. Me quiere me to Gyonne, me quiere nos vai papel tiki papel English, is that what we're gonna say? Okay, well. It's fine for me, she says. Pero sí, nos gasi awe nota no, but sincerely Carolina, então nos vai code switches we do.
Yes.
Nos vai papel de projeto hobby interessante para onde me vai lagi explicação mesmo. Sei que papel tiki rivagele acaba de passado. Pero mi te quiere también mirando con in tempo di carnaval, algo che non sta align hobby con ele, non sta di cultura, to eigenlijk chi non sta pensa di no, di Aruba, di Caribe, mi te quiere también si non pensa riba si mi whack, mi social media in any case, contour hena da sharing, for example, Bad Bunny, so album Nobo, and to all of the songs, and to con sta feeling very identified, ku hobby di messaging, di music, all the way di un sense of nostalgia, pero también un sense of wanting to keep what is ours. Pero ese porta hopi difícil in a globalized world, and there's a some level of importance to keeping it, storing it, recording it. Mi te quiere ku awe nos lopapin tiki mas in that context. Without further ado, mi grabe sa danki na my awesome sponsors. Thank you for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Thank you to Larash Pasay, to Total, to Gain, I appreciate you. E of course, na tour oyente na Nicola Fam. Se você tutin, Gyonne Zafira, ou se você tune out, then I don't like you. Pero, pesuran ko to tune in, Gyonne Zafira, to tahay topiko na aki interesante. Lagami sa kiko boskar papi di Jelle. Of course, it's in Carnival season, so we will be talking about Carnival stuff as well. Pero lagami sa kiko precis, boskar papi about. Agora mi tot bisa Gyonne, kung mi ke papi ke rayon nang aki, mi sinti dor ke Carnival season to tiki mas largo. Mi tahay portam tiki mas chance, and the waro elected, chosen, and they win, so don't go win, e weekend aki. Dus we look at papia, sì, dus rimi to be saki nan tata me. Pero rimi look at papi ko nang, so mi te quiero que se kita un topico cultuur, en in ieder geval de mi babbel, no sa papia about, was ako, challenges dan ko Queens on the face, and to participate. Pero también, what happens throughout like the rest of the year and stuff. So do let me know si tem algo outro que você quer papo de Jelle tam de carnaval. Anyways, without further ado, me debelaga Gyonne reintroduzimentos to our sincerely Carolina listeners. Claro que se você escuchando riba radio, e vamos bafe out or whatever, nossa live riba com fam so YouTube e Facebook, so you can switch to that.
Yeah.
Or re-listen after when you have more time. So Gyonne, tell us who you are, why you're here today.
Sì, mi nome è Gyonne. Sorry, mi dato onde hena ng kudo si man passada e dato ting e grip. Dus mi stem ainda não tá full bom. Pero sì, mi nome è Gyonne. Mi tá si differente cos nang but I've been working in the cultural sector for like about a decade now already. Nang Holanda, pero tambe half of the time, the past 5 years porta Aruba è differente, of course è differente, hena arriba ABC SSS Islands e Holanda. So very mobile, very hybrid. I think that is also the future. Sempre mi tata interessading pensa kiko cultural memory bambisa ta stories nang ko nos conta nos mes e outro nang di mane, por ejemplo, Aruba of wherever we're from e toch dat kritisch dingen zei tambe, pas om te keren. It's not always about, I think, keeping what is ours, but also giving credit where credit is due and a historical accuracy in that sense tambe. Dus me gusta zoek op
origin.
Sí, pero tambe onda ting overlap. The different points in time historically. Sí.
Met hebben we algo hopi interessante, and that's giving credit where credit is due. So the last couple of weeks, there has been some discussion about like music forms around carnival, right? And what is ours, what is not ours, where it came from, where it didn't come from, how we change it, how we didn't change it. And it's like a perfect example, the Oroku nos no por easily go back and to look this up, of discuss it in a, accurate way. It can create a lot of discussion, sometimes nasty discussion that it's not personal and that shouldn't necessarily be very emotionally loaded, but it's based on whatever stories maybe or you heard and whatever you had convinced yourself with, and to not necessarily like the like you said, like the accuracy. Yeah.
Sowieso met kere etta sempre interessante pa wak historical origins, pa so minota kere sempre ting origen, pero met kere si ku ting nivel di algo cultural. Si pa tuma carnaval mi nota expert, sai met bisa al vast, pero carnaval actually comienza como dus in general, Carnaval den Caribe comienza como protest against people who were enslaved. So it had like a very strong Afro-Caribbean, it has a very strong Afro-Caribbean origin. Esa nunca ba napakita pa so historically, esa ito lo cual thing, esa ito just proven as well, right? Pero Carnaval a travel kuhena ng kuabing traha, por example, na Aruba tame na lago, to very good example, from the Upward Islands or Leeward Islands, I think they call them, different islands, anto esa kumisa mezcla ko forma de Aruba. Dus mapabisa ko Aruba adapt su own form in that, just like a lot of other islands did. But nos nunca eigenlijk notapape over die party para me ko la kumisa mezcla, anto mita kera ay nang hopi biyaha bamisa historical points in time ta missing ding conversation.
Missing ding conversation, pero tame mi dari para tin diferente hena nan kuting interesse ding sa comprender historia anta passa, então mi ta cara mi que sa ta carnaval aya passa after aya prome acaba dat je een ticket discussion over die bijvoorbeeld costume use, anto certo coisa com hena também para na Aruba não só ta HCC anto tihinna nanta mane si, pero porta you weren't exposed to it, of porta dinge bubble ko abota no, anto unia cosa tanto mane protest, right? Anto ku ne otro isa ne Caribe bijvoorbeeld hobi mas protest, anto nanta mane para Aruba no, it's about mane being pretty and stuff like that. Anto yung hena mane no, Aruba tame, non so ti un gruppo ku toto mane basta mane satire, anto a little protesting, ku toto gruppo ku hobi bihati mane faces of politicians, anto basta dus say tame to ways of ku no sa adapt to origin tame basta ku berata about also being pretty and to basta enjoying, etc. Pero no stambe hay una manera para incorporar that
piece of origin.
Yeah, anto ku si no sono para quieto na gele, no sta hasmera un cosa que never existed. Of course, que no pasa.
A bit dangerous or problematic at the least.
Yeah. So, that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Pero obviously nos discuss un tiki in carnival context pa kiko basta these things might be important, pero e proyecto obviously basta is just about cultural memory, not specific to carnival, not specific to this one thing. First thing I want to ask como se llega na una idea assim, então pa kiko nós como Aruba should care to have a like historical map.
Yeah, that's a good question. This idea came to me a while ago, like, basta en 2020, I don't know, 21 of so. So like a few years back after 20 mes during COVID, and we tata pensando over die diferente manera ng pa in a new way, maybe, or in a more accessible way, be like create connections. Esa is mi primeira idea. Like, how can I create connections in a way pa pensa over die historia, después ma queda pape com par de friends and mi kuta meta creatives na Holanda kuta traha com maps, pero pa hopi like otro type of things. And then I was like, yeah, it could be like a cool idea to combine un digital map ku e cultural memory. And e forma ku ita awo, dus a being eigenlijk de mi brain around 2021, pero mi notato ni echt een team pahasi algo kune, and then that started kind of mamisa manifesting the years after. I was sowieso met atra ku een team, and to e idea sempre ta pa make people interested in their own story. So it's not just historical references, it's also kind of like seeing kiko hene ng mesong narrativo ta over the like everyday life ta dinos tema ng home things ko ta hasi tur dia come pasteci, por ejemplo hopi hene ta come pasteci tur dia of places you go hiking or things you grew up with or folkloric things, right? Nós tem 4 diferentes temas e dinge sei pro meu nível vou bisa tá para gente gewoon começa a pensar panang mes. Pas op gente não tá by archivo of tá by online tá work archivo não então já passa nós a talk about it in a way também tá ku dinge archivo não hope bia e nota perspectiva não de gente não local, but it's like the historical connection to the ones that colonized the different islands nang perspective ta dominant dingen say. Dus mi kera gewoon activa gente pa pensa pa over die nang storia nang dos pa waxing ting un connection entre storia nang dus dita ongoing research tambe nota algo kuta kla kaba. Então, de 3, se nos haya de 2 nível, nos pa wak, junto com existing institutional archive, sitting overeenkomsten ng di lokwal anang haya ay nang over die diferente story na. Dus awo, nos ting hopi, nos ting par story ko ta publish kaba bijvoorbeeld over die ku hene nang ko ta contando story nang ta conta over die kung eta ta den tempo di lago ora anan ta mucho, por ejemplo. Ting otro hende nang ko ta conta mas over die dynamics entre sexo nang. Dus man-vrouw verhoudingen die antes. Pas we hebben dan een reactie na nos target group data ongeveer 50 plus, maar nadruk dat toch wel 60, 70 plus.
Okay.
Dus hebben dan een tikje mas mayo. Dus ja, maar dat was echt diferente perspectieven ng angulo ng die storia ng ku normalmente we echt mane papi ku hende over die je.
Ando, me pensa, even se papia over i gele, probably ta ding mane un bobo.
Sì.
Das me pensa, a mí no ting hende nang, basta rubiano di edate ting mi direct family, pero si ding mi de mi angetrouwde familie, right? Anto, bota escucha cierta storia nan, me deje masha interessante, ora mi da sinto ko nami escucha cierta storia nan. Anto, mi tigo bisa ko meeting hobby amistad nan ko I am that kind of person. Mi tabira everybody's moms and aunts friend too. Anto ora mi hang out ko nang, anto mi escucha cierta storia nan, mi hang hobby leuk. Pero uno mi escuchando di un relatively objective point of view pa sobra mi famiglia su storia, basta.
Sì.
Anto mi escucha, anto mi get to compare, analyze different stories nang, anto mi haya commonalities nang, right? Mi haya certain differences that could be related to a lot of things. Porta inderdaad man edad, pero porta tambe socioeconomic situation, basta una nanga end up tatraha, man hinanang ko atrahat bijvoorbeeld ding lago ti un very specific way kung na perceive un temporada, basta. Anto bita sinti ko indeed, unless butong hende ko ta go out of your way to listen to these different stories, there is no way
exposure.
No, haya that exposure. I hera bota haya mane emesong story all the time. Nature fiesi familya nang anto hera bota bira mane un tiki bane about it. Kubo nota portado ne valor de un cultural context ku uno si abono si tell that story de modo di bisa e por by perdi pa sobra ku who is recording it.
Yeah.
Tas mi te quere say tameta algo bonito como te escucha, it's giving value to everyday life and to everyday people's perspective on historical context, because like you said in the past what we have that very tailored, it's very produced by people with specific biases already, and to stereotypes the Caribbean and to the island people. So yeah, I like that.
Sí, met kere ta meta nice pa conta ku proyecto ta dus eting diferente nivel di research pero tambe é parte promedia sei, dus prome conhecega even na história não. Nós está trabalhando junto com a organização local, dus aqui nós está trabalhando, sei, amigo Ana Maria Bia passa bem, de plataforma, nós talk about that, so that's like the intervention part, like nós está trabalhando, collaborate para com a organização local por ativar a comunidade com artistic method. Dus está tailored to that organization's vision, as long as a nos haya historia nang. Anto ding 2025, dus aqui, nos está looking of eigenlijk nos escribiendo funds para nos potraja com uma organização na Corsol aqui. Dus es é algo hope interessante para nos work com different or the same in the type of stories that we will get. People say that already. So last year it was more around the theme of like everyday life, like we mentioned. Of bisa last year pa so a active part di storytelling happened in 2024, pero aqui si mangi menos tinha launch na Aruba, but we'll get to that. E focus di sung di aqui ku henana na Corsol ta baita baibing. Anto ta baibing pa mi personally ta sowieso my own podcast committee ku Eva Cruz that we talk about that life of coming and going, being from the Caribbean. But we're gonna focus on it mane a history di tinku migrate for specific reasons, mas tanto as like educational reasons. Nós também onderzoeken com a local organization na Corsol through aqui nós também hasi theater. Dus passa nós hasi visual arts, ante aqui nós também hasi theater para nós ativar a comunidade ainda. Anto dingen sei nós também wa que história nanta bini di maior nang, pero também di mucho nang ku abay of tabayendo Holanda cada ano of America or whatever awo kiko dynamics culturally e socially paso bata desconectar bo isla, pero também economically, like what does that mean for your social economic status or bo Kevin back of ora bata mane struggling student. Dus algo ku porta orbo by America menos cultural phenomenon, pero si bata by Holanda for years, maybe since the 70s, the last decade, ting algo ku nanta yama mane bursale nang, right? That name exists because out of a specific political context ku tauta ting tambe. Bursale nta eigenlijk insera ku bota haya beurs ku bono ting ku paga mas, pero esa not obviously
the reality
anymore. So nusabay onderzoek esa mas anto hopefully at some point ding aki nos por wak kong ito connecta ku certain forms of migration historically tambe. Dus mit a kere hope biyaha nos nota ni actively pensa kiko a yearly migration di estudiante que men kunanta, like what does that do, like it sometimes create a brain drain, or most of the time create a brain drain paso no turhene cabin back. What does that mean if people want to come back? Ki sorti instituto ng a facilidad ng mesiting pa basta mane facilitate people ko cabin back, dus by being dus tore kone no sabay wak kong nos por onderzoek essay. And another part of the research dia kikutame tabay over the cultural memory iporta no pami, pero pa most people ta masun taboo, but I think I can mention it. In and of itself it's not a taboo, but like for some people in the context is historical queer narratives who existed for years in architectural context, dus letterlijk buildings, geographical settings, dus onder ting personal stories connecta say, and we want to really do that to create eigenlijk from a socio-historical context, create a space that like those dynamics that history has always been there.
Yeah.
So ito omgekeerd ku is die Corsano sa hone in to personal stories again, but the one from the queer histories of the Caribbean, the mass focused on socio-historical context. Dus hopi breed pro me. So we have a lot on our agenda. Yeah.
Sounds lots of fun.
Sí.
Escuchando part, I want to touch on so many things. Pero parte, bijvoorbeeld de students lang ko tabay being ano sa Kiko impact ribe seita anto what it does to a grupo ko tabay.
Sí.
A grupo ko ta decidi ko ta being, but also a grupo ko ta stay behind.
Sí.
Anto keep push tini pa bijvoorbeeld mina kasi sinti. Anto this is just me going on a limb hearing you talk anto what it made me feel in my noggin. Pero mina ta pensando ko to what extent kada beha ko versar na tabay, mas just pensa agora que me as an adult, right? Adult que trabalha ding public sector specifically, então como pensa riba, sabe lo que ar manehena nang educar na Aruba, doing awesome work, hena di Aruba, você hena que compreender os contexto, etc. Me pensa, pero to what extent cada ano com nosso parqueto na quanto de nang tabay. I don't think about wanneer, oh my gosh, dan toer ik being back. Of dan toer being back. Met dat ga vanuit. I don't know what the percentage is, but some of them won't come back. And to we behave from that perspective as well. And to what does that mean? Of kiko mi kermean ko iseta ko mina da sinti yung urge pa man create more opportunities bijvoorbeeld. Mi do pa pa mes. Imita pa piano ding mi bubble tampoco. I don't hear that urge to create opportunities for them either. At all. Thus to what extent knowing ko that they will leave is some of them will not come back. Na mita pushando nos pa no tamas welcoming in some extent to them. Basta of mani hasiele aantrekkelijk or whatever.
But it's like a chicken and egg verhaal, I guess.
It is.
I think to be so there are different layers. So met a kere sowieso thing is like a cultural and like a social aspect to it, but het met thing hoppie plat gezegd a financial economical side of it, right? Even though, but there's one piece about buy Holland or whatever for studio and about being back. One, you make stories and histories and wherever you go as well. Pero met a kere hoop je heen te gaan ervan uit kunang no por being back. Anto met a kere parte di por ta differente than what you are saying. Paso met a kere hoop je heen ko met a pape kun na Holland, at least in my case, na ta bisa si pero mina sa si mi por being back paso mina sa sitting job opportunities for me. Anto met a kere is seita algo ku e gesprek of a conversation I think could happen because si kinang of anywhere on the islands hena tambane asa pero hende not been back pero na outra banda ting hende ku tambane per mino sa simi por. That's like a mismatch in behoeftes pero tama di perspectivo paso es un kutaker ko no por being back that's more of a block, right? Imita kere esai tameta mita kere ding a perspective ko akabi bisa. It's good to be aware of it because I think it can also block certain forms of innovation.
Claro.
Si bating hende ku ta geschoold anto nata being back na Aruba in this case ku knowledge ku mane ami mes like if I look at myself I have knowledge that ami personally no kaya hinka na Holanda but if I don't really like go out of my way pa mane echt pape ko hende pa echt network pa echt hasitura ko I'm not saying everything should be mambisa super easy tampoco pero toegankelijkheid or like being able to at least have like a bureau where you can have these conversations or like you know like coming back what does that mean having like a community kupo yudabo ko essay met a kere essay lo a make things hope mas easy tambe pa hende po saki ko e posibilidad nanta ando misaku na Holanda ting hopi organisasyon ko tamane ba misa mediate of the hasi programa ng entre isla ng Holanda pa hende ng ko kier bimbek pero te awo mi kasama mawak hopi mas di mane Bonaire St. Maarten Kukarsau, mino echt wak hopi die organisasyon ng di Aruba pa mane bisa, hey, these are the opportunities that we have. Ando no turhen ka trabajar in corporate tampoco, pero at least it's like the exposure ay kutini na hulana pa hindi ko cabin back. It's not always clear what the reality is back on the island. Anto mi kere exciting financial, economical, cultural, is like social gevolgen tambe.
Exactly. Anto mi kere ko pa nos poriega na comienza genuinely bridge a gap that maybe needs bridging. Dus je comprende überhaupt kiko precies it's doing, right? It's doing, like you said, na hena nan kuta bayendo, ni hena nan kuta kedando, pero full nos structure tambe. I mean, no sabe, I wonder to what extent was us nos actually talk about it. Pero dan nos opohender pa turhender being back, period. I don't know, maybe that is a reality. Yeah. And to how honest are we about that reality? And to how honest teori nos ta tambe ku estudiante na momento ko nang bay, sobra.
Especially that.
Yeah, pa sobra, what about having those very like tough conversations? Pa sobra, mi te quiero hopi hena na momento ko nanta bay. Ting mi conoce hena nam so mi tama bay ko grupito. Once upon a time, many years ago. I'm still a teenager, but I mean when I was a younger teenager. Pero
nice one.
Pero ora ko bay, de cara ko basta de mi grupito to ting hena nan ko to convinced ko now the way being Aruba back. Mane they were like 18, 19, 17. Basta amin to 17 and to amin to kome amin sa nada. Amin to later going mane into it like I'm gonna wing this basically.
And you'll see.
And I winged it by all means. Pero tating hena nan ko to hopi convince mane nang kaya ba study algo hopi specific anto nang tata mane amin na bay back Aruba mane misa ko lokal ko mikahasi minata bay por back basta mane pero sa hena nan go into like aerospace engineering for example basta anto nang tata acht mane mit bay Holanda pro me basta mina po afford before bay America pero mit bay basta do my best na TU Delft or whatever anto this was mina sa wax me get transferred to like a country that is doing like other stuff anto and that is what they are doing. Basta itating hena nan ko ta fulan no mi basta mi ta pai anto mi pura pa being back when I was not being from a family of teachers or whatever and the full mi being back as soon as possible. And then mi tatopa nang once in a while anto mi bisa na hey so basta
how's it going?
Ato nanto ne mi gusto ba ne bibinang basta nanting no urge to come back anto hindi ka so it's nice or kubota sinti kubuting that type of freedom being in the sense of si babay yung career path basta there will be opportunities hindi ka rin ko to go in certain career paths ng na momento ko before teta duro pa bobing back. I understand that too pero tingnan ko to go into very relatively traditional career paths even non-traditional ones like you basta ko met keren wat daarbij toch een sense of porta nota hopi uitgewerkt naar Aruba of porta nota hopi opportunities basta super specialisme standing medicine por ejemplo met un ejemplo que algo super traditional pero nos no mester 80 heart surgeons you know like anterior to what extent what about yendo bewust even though it's a very traditional thing and not a guarantee will be an opportunity first of all isi what about yendo de un non-traditional thing to what extent what about yendo ko hope ko there will eventually be room for you to come back and I don't think we're having those conversations enough and to what that does to people as well no pa sobra porta botaya nang and to bota contento to the extent ko bahasi lokal ba set out to do but it's not part of like your life plan or whatever of what you thought was gonna be it funny what bisa ting knowledge ko bulokar mane zat in kinang inoya nang pero just nota llega na gele of
no sa kung pahasi say
exactly
sa met kere seta a conversation ko ting ko wardo research I think tam gewoon in cijfers dus mane percentage die hena ko kier bin back ko por bin back percentage die opportunities nang dingen differente sector nang
determining factors I would want to know those
connecting them as well to hopi biya na Aruba hindi pa de innovação, pero innovação po wada hasi ding hopi diferente sector tambe. E nota gis bambisa in sustainability, to give an example, una hindi ta pise hopi biya, right? Or tourism bambisa.
Me tô escuchando, mane, I can hear Lucian saying this. Shout out to Lucian, pero eta bisa turora, mane, ora hindi pa innovação, nanta pensa me bli comprar um computer onto iPad, nanta ba innovar. Mane, that's not it.
Innovation mesta, bijvoorbeeld na Hollanda misa hopi ko hena ng kuta trading say combining culture ku tech, like arte ku tech, like that is also a possibility. Maybe people are already DIYing it na Aruba, pero door ko na no sa kunang po pambisa haya subsidy of whatever, they don't create public spaces pa essay. It's just something I do. Mito just bisando un example, right? So I think that's also like connecting back to a research ko no sa hase over the cultural memory ko e mapa nos ta agri para of nos ari para ayan pasa ko hopi hende no ta pensa dus hopi activo over di na mes kunanting algo importante pa conta. Mita quiere say tambe ta like activando agency back na nos mesmong hende ng basta like being aware of certain power dynamics tama dus pakiko bota kere kubo storya no ta like important maybe, right? And
were you told that?
Yes,
maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also like historically, like bambisong hende su familia not a fit into the general narrative ko hope biata waro contaba bijvoorbeeld Kiko Aruba su historia ta of example di carnaval, por example, like what is that letterlijk besenos organisasyon yamasina, what is that counter narrative, pero eigenlijk nota un counter narrative, pero door ko hope biano sta wak story nan dominante anto no sta wak Kiko ting ronde je, pero eigenlijk turcos ko ting ronde je ta met a parte di historia. Gis nos nota kis tim viaja pa conta full storia, pues nos sa tour storia nan tampoco of nos tamane ana sa que ta ma fácil pa conta sina, but gis paso algo ta ma fácil no que men ko ta bom.
No.
Sí.
Y it's also understanding con ciertos stories santa get told.
Sí.
Sa sa que pone mi pensa Webs, mi kasab, mi tawta na daskakel ma wij doen een presentatie.
Sí,
Anto, students are very interesting, they're very diverse in the sense of wanneer net naturong edad, onda kubuting wanneer students aan kuta hobi mucho ainda, anto butini nang kuta wanneer mas savvy, right? And I think it also has to do ku porta ng parents, anto kong active santa. Anto, Mita in 3 klas, anto natuurlijk met mensen gedaan, ongeveer, dus mensen een jaar lang, anto mita telling the story like every time, anto mita hasi van certain exercises, anto questions and stuff like that, anto dat hoop ik part, dus in cada klas mita haya van a different type of questions and reactions, so they like, oh, okay, interesting, anto mita conta nang bijvoorbeeld que processo tapa bo eventually by papin na United Nations or advocating for something, anto para me, one of the biggest shocks throughout that whole process was con caro eta. Besides, not whenever they get invited and when oh my god, me to papi, like you literally have to pay for it. Thus obviously, when we tem certo nível de privilégio e financial dominance or whatever, ding advocacy bubble por überhaupt afford if you even get that space, but speak there. Yeah. And ora mi tata bisa say, when that in students ang kutota full nang brain tata glitching, when não to comprende how that works. Anto tini nanto durf di puntrame un tiki mas about it. Anto dati class, dati one kid. At some point, my pull off on tanchi rubiano moment, and my puntriki su nombre su fam tanto yudikienta, because I had to know. Pero la puntrami dynamic die bijvoorbeeld kon gobiano reageren, anto kon gobiano holandês reageren, anto mas explica nang basta nos go through that whole like process, anto nos basta pay for it, anto ela puntrami e gobiano Holanda dona bosa placa, mane na ajuda bosa placa bekoske, anto weet mane good question, no, basta anto mane gobiano di Aruba, anto era mas explica nang tame com tipo de fundo nita traha, anto se Holanda bisa no, dan Aruba no tem placa pa dona nos, dus nos era literally fundraise the whole thing.
Yeah, was a fundraise.
Yeah, we did. Anto, so we paid for it. So yes, nos está comer el cabo. Anto, what do you do? Pero, nos abay. Anto, é um effort que nós toma para sobre com nossa convenção mesmo, com nossa história tá importante o suficiente para ora que tu vai agora e que estava para nós discuss a meeting where we got to speak to the global report on children with developmental disabilities. Então so you don't know consultants, pero nos get consulted.
Yes.
Tem a final draft to make sure que it's reasonable. Então we understand what's in the report, blah blah. Então se passa em previous meetings, like previous years. Pero mitata de momento e também sinto que se nós vai dissect report assim anto echt laga sa kiko tá falhando se nós of kiko não tá bom implemented nos perspective door de escuta hope outro país em previous meetings lang e door de você dissect report etc tá very peculiar anto se nós não toma space passou nossa chiquito anto pa sobra nos ting mane porta hulanda kuta mane passa overkoepelend forever nós vai gaan vanuit que kost ons sort of functionar mes kost but they absolutely do not anto é very important moment de decidir que nos voice como isla teeny tiny passa tá importante
sí.
E também para highlight é fact que veramos a partir de Kingdom etc. pero com nos voice, nos concerns, nos issues lang, tá important. Regardless even a quantidade de gente comparar com um país grande e hope menos, I don't care.
Mas é importante, me te quer também hope específico. Me te quer esse problema também que hope viaja me tá work, mane trabajando como consultant, like I do grant writing and I help with fundraising for social, educational e cultural projects, artistic também. E hope viaja I ding mita consult gente que tá vraag aan, per mita consult hope viaja mais também fondo lang. Anto door die political structure die Aruba tá parte ainda como status a parte de Holanda, hope viaja no ting e tudo outro island também, to be honest. ABC SSS eilanden noting focus riba com e context riba cada isla. Anto sei ta algo que hope biata missing. Anto ta midden kong nos ta conta man historia nang even historical ones that is also then oftentimes missing. Yeah, like literally every time mita na Holanda anto mita bisa ko mita bing Aruba, hene ta keda yama Aruba bijvoorbeeld Corso. And that is like a glitch that is like that because Corso politically tata ting mane of award do na poder in that sense ko politiek ng di Holanda tata centered nang for the longest time, right? Dus ela crea un dynamic hopi estranho on a personal level, I would call it like that, pero tambe ding a narrative in what we're talking about today. A narrative ta ko ainda de hopi hena ng mente bijvoorbeeld Corso ta is centrale punt. Dus ora mi papa di Aruba, hende not a pensa di Aruba, not a pensa Corso. And that is because of how we were told stories, or how people in the Netherlands specifically were told or not told actually stories about historical facts tambe di ABC SSS Islands. Dus ko Aruba not un Bonaire not un Saba, un Station not un St. Martin. E Corso não tão bonito para Aruba of Saba or whatever tampouco, right? So is esta eigenlijk o projeto também local me quer of nós at this point door ko nota diz mi projeto mas nos quer puxa, like we want to create similarities but also what are the differences, like as to dingen story bijvoorbeeld die lago hoop je hende na Holanda if we see that perspective to talk about Shell por ejemplo também passou Shell ta connected ainda hoop je ku Holanda e story nang pero hoop je hende which is good that they talk about it because Shell alaga hoop je environmentally wise hoop ik was malo bijvoorbeeld na Corso dingen ouwe and stuff like I think there's been a research done by that pero dame een rol die Shell bijvoorbeeld in the Second World War pero yung hende na Holanda when they talk about historical contexts not to talk about lago e een rol die lago dingen Second World War por ejemplo, right? So that already is like a whole drag to get on the table. Dus mita hele importante like what you said as well ku ora bota because of colonialism and how that whole it still affects us up until this day politically vooral tambe ku ita hope importante pa push the narratives ku existi of ku ta exist tambe of existi all that time as well in the public spaces pa sobra si no bota queda bisa the same stories
anto e nossa ciele mi bisa nossa as un community ku the amount of people ku letterlijk pontravo basta mane pero who cares of mane basta it's not that special of it's not that important of the otro hen su problema of nanga regelen kaba of hulana tos bosi regelen mane un cosco nosso carga um nível de responsabilidade. Então é bem interessante que eu vi isso que eu vou puntra renda, vou papi correndo tem acho que muito porta passar ali fora é para de como história überhaupt the matter. Of de com überhaupt é importante. Então it has to do with basta power dynamics tanto que nós tá crescer den Caribe, den isla nan, com uma mentalidade que de nós eigenlijk tanto que menos, basta e nós temos all the time, eta biba din everyday life, basta nós tá na trabalho, por exemplo, basta nós tá na escola, gewoon automaticamente se gente holandês specifically bijvoorbeeld, bem hasi trabalho falgasina e presumption of competence kutini, anto eta mita kere by tuma kusibo por papel de você costa grande pero também the everyday things anto realizar com tanta mesmo importante com somebody else's everyday things você nós também move tiki mais forte esse anto donan nós mesmo história nós mesmo vida nós mesmo você existence or whatever mais valor so I think that's very interesting.
Pero quiere saqueta parte mane underrated like Hopi Hande Awendieta talk about, and I think it's super important. I mean, different indigenous tribes have been doing this for years, like working on decolonizing societies, right? I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm just saying like in the world of the arts of the cultural sector, Hopi Biahe Handeta talk about like decolonizing as this next hot big thing terwijl itong everyday process of tackling our own biases, our own racist presumptions, our own privileges in general, right? Anto mita quiere pami e proyecto aqui que nós está haciendo ta forma que minota bisa it's to decolonize. No, I'm just saying think about your own story, and it's important to see like all of the stories that maybe we have missed in the past that were always there. Kupami honestly tamit parte decolonizing because colonization of a dominance di cierto narrativo nang tambe a zorger voor ku bonota wak po mesong storia mani mesong importante. So a project like this for me sowieso from the genesis, from the beginning kaba mitat mane, I think it'll help people to really look at it from like, hey, this is an important story, and I think it's an important story because I see on the map on otro gente ku tamiting a similar experience. Like that is just like a human thing as well, right? Ora no sawa kung otro gente hopi biyahating a similar story like ours. It helps us to a certain extent in our mental health, sometimes even maybe, right? So say nos quer activar tambe ora gente ta bayri ba e map anto wak história não. Sí.
Me tinko pensa também immediately riba bijvoorbeeld aan een boka kabi pasa tambe. And I think about it specifically sobre me sinti na Aruba nos relationship ku mani porta things ang ku ta more mani indigenous ta mas severed ku porta na otro isla etc. Anto there's this thing ku hopi hen na Aruba sita ha si fini aya the thought of like kurufuku was antes completely based on like the idea of like witchcraft and stuff like that, right? Pero nos no quer llame así. Anto me da love to challenge that thought. Pa sobra me tambe by all means my mama ta come from indigenous background. This nos ting hopi practices tanku it's like it's just been there until we just do them kind of thing. Pero me da pundra hande de kung bota pensa aceita man un tiki embarrassing of course aceita man less than maybe like a different practice like cheering ku champagne.
See, that's a good question.
Yeah, like kiko de kung mane basta karon ko sensa de bokas tabane if anto do I want to share it or not, and do I want people to know or not. Oh my gosh, nasa si kiara hena to pa mina kasi sensa or whatever. Pero of mane hena justify ng mens or nato compra sensa mane laterluk or makumpra man sensa ay aqui, mas tem senhora pisa mane na ya mi tá se gewoon bom essa costume no comita quer den coisa aqui, bro gewoon costume, but why are you justifying yourself? Like nobody, I was thinking my brain may not be say, but it's like nobody cares. Nobody's asking
it's
you
okay.
to justify. Yeah. Pero I don't hear people justifying the kung nanto cheering ku like expensive champagne anto basta algo ku no da wara trahaki lang anto basta has like we just adopted because maybe we started watching it in a movie or somewhere. Somebody brought it from Europe. Basta anto say tawar miraman chic and stuff anto basta it's like ato bisa full money. Maybe we have to talk about it a little bit more. I mean, why do we feel weird about some things and not weird about the other things?
Yeah.
Anto, it has to do with that, right? Kung nós wak nos mes, anto kung nós valorar nos mes, kosang of course, kuta mais cerca de nós, so of course, yes, not algo, se bisa mani ala start na Aruba falbacina, pero se nos vai back mani indigenous coast, it mas related to this part of the world, right? To this nos identity as this part of the world, being, Central Caribbean y Latin America. Pero nos tem muito ku kosang assim chiquito all the way to kosang hopi grande é shame ku hena tinde importar pa bisa quando com pa ser dia, right? Pa sobra não sei, okay, pa ser fried, pero stel je voor wat we ovenbake, example. How different is it como panko queijo, for example? But it's like we have glorified panko queijo. See, of nossa rainha é mais acceptable.
See.
Anto si bohunte full of manteca, then it's gonna be like around the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's like we have decided what was ours, no, lo cual tadi nos, tiki mane, menos. And we should be ashamed and of nos attach shame to it versus portabo não supposed to comendo pão queijo tampoco do dia. That is what I'm saying. Mane, basta, pero ito kung no by bibisami ko tabi hoge otro. Mane,
like
but nutritional value wise, like I will pull up facts and to be like, why? Bisami di kong. Mane,
sí, dus kiko te mat stava ng kung nos ta wak algo, kung nos ta judge algo por ta tambe ding nos mes y ding otro. For sure.
Anyways, this was a very fun conversation, as I thought it would have been.
It's always nice talking.
Yeah. Okay, so question. Não se pode mais sobre mes. Pero me quer trabo. Give us some like concrete details about mapping until could we get launched in a week and a half. So excited. What should people look out for if they want to like be part of like the launch or whatever? Tell us about it.
Sowieso kaba por wak a beta version as they call it the map online. Dus we hebben een idee. Het is www.counternarratives.nl and then /Archival Horizons Map. Of dat is bij counternarratives.nl en dan betal wak kubo po klikken riba nos website.
I will share the link in my stories.
Yes. Anto dia 31 de januari nós também lancei na Aruba por Cambay, nós também hacemos na Edu Campus a former bombini den Kaya, dus durante casi amiga sa una bombinita or someone's parent or caretaker lo sa una bombinita. Bombini Bazar. Ainang de campus gallery simulata herata awotame pero nantame tinha parte di lante onda nos tabaita where they give like the classes with the kids. Anto nos tabay binko otro tabay ting pari sprekers nang nos ting mita pending dus personaje mi não também menciona ainda, pero sowieso nós vai ter Ana Maria que está até, Soyin que é artista que nós atrás com né, nós vai ter Mandy Laclay que também papia mais com nós over the parte de research from a community perspective, como te quero toch importante e just like maybe connecting it to academic research tambe, then com nós hasi a research together Y otra persona me no può mencionare ainda, porque não está confirmed, pero se bem un artista de Aruba que está op master, anto nós também tem some acoustic music de Patrick Rical as well. So também está como chill thing onde nós vai papo com outro, começar setor para 16 horas meia bolo po cana drenta acaba. Também tem just some snacks. De setor para 8 horas echte programa também tá, of 8 horas de 5, depende com lihe nos go through it. Maximal 8 horas de 5, então de 8 horas de 5 para 9 horas nos pode chill again and then it's done. Po RSVP na 749-0885. Just be someone, hey, I want to be there. It's free, but it's handy for us to know for the snacks and drinks. And of po manda nos email na saludos, mane bota bisa saludos, ding papiamento at counternarratives.nl. Of gewoon manda nos DM riba Instagram counter_narratives. Very easy to find. Pero si Carolina ta
I will tag you anto sowieso il link tambe pa e beta version mi tikere sales nice.
Sí.
Any last messages comfortable can leave people with as they heard today's conversation?
Yes. Pa in map si bota hai interessante sowieso ting section kubo po shareable story ko us. So like we have a form that you can fill in. It's anonymous. Paso nos ta focus riba e geographical location di unde e storia ta bing in no e persona per se. But I can talk more about that during the launch. Ere hende lo comprende pa kiko nos hace say. Dus bo share bo story or si bo sako bo wela of bo welo of bo tanchi or whatever has an interesting story. Be that person that uploads it for them. That would be amazing. You can always ask us if you have questions. Ting yung voorbeeld kaba, dus po sa ongeveer ki tipo di storia ting. Is ita algo que we can leave for now and llega dia 31 lota leuk tambe, very like a chill hangout where we talk about these type of things together. I think it's a bit like good to stimulate the brain juices ko.
The brain juices. Yes, it is. Gyonne, thank you so much for a nice conversation today. Me quiere pa mi hop on your horse di sa las messages me quiere tapa enderat nos donanos más importancia, nos storia ng más importancia. Anto, I know it can be like a little uncomfortable sometimes, pero talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Anto, basta ta open to conversation, anto, basta generally escucha, hena ng oro ko nanto contaba algo para sa timane tiki historical context of basta, sa itong story ko nanta repeti, hopi, may tabay encourage bo so pa next time ko istorya to repeti, porta polong tiki atensyon de novo. Anto waxi algo tamane valbo up of tamane stand out. May quiere ko we would be surprised so nos cambia no some perspective into these things. The things that we could learn, not just about like historical stuff, pero tambe why people do the things they do, behave the way they behave, anto basta di kong maybe other people also are the way they are, right? All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you tuned in today, I had a nice conversation. Si bo catch this episode towards the end. I'm so sorry. Pero bapawaka back riba YouTube e Facebook di Kula Fam, di Sincerely Carolina. I boporhan yele back tam riba bo favorite podcasting platform durante si mang. Follow me on social media. Follow me ainda. It's at sincerely.carolina. Of @CNET Talks. I will share the links to the beta version the mapping, pero também informação para você por sign up se você quer buy a launching event. Anyways, let me know kiko você quer papi de next time. Se você quer papi de carnaval, kiko precisa de carnaval você quer papi a maneira mabisa. I want to talk to the queens, but if there's anything else, do let me know. Have a nice weekend. Be nice. Be kind. Thank you to my awesome sponsors for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Thank you to La Roche, to Toto, to Gain. And thank you to Kula Fam and their listeners. I will see you again next week. Bye. Carolina, and I am the host of Sincerely Carolina, a series of educational conversations about current social issues with local and international experts. Make sure you tune in every Saturday on Cool FM from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Bye!